Hey, welcome to Falcraftcast. I'm Hammy. Hope you're well and good. This is our longer version of our quartered Paladin deck guide straight introduction. New player friendly. We've done a 2-minute quick summary, and you can see that video at the link below if you click the link. So if you want this in 2 minutes, go and look at it. This is a longer summary where we both look at the cards in more depth in the deck, and then we throw it into a couple of games to show you roughly how it works. Jumping on in. So here is Mustard in quartered Paladin. So in this deck, your goal early game is to kind of like try and keep your opponent under control-ish in the early to early mid game. With your deck here, you've got all of the good Paladin combos. Equality, of course, comboing very, very nicely with Consecrate. I have also thrown in a Wild Pyromancer to go with the Equality. I've found that I've really been struggling against rush decks, but also decks with just loads of minions. I want more control, and I'm testing that out to see how it goes. Muster for Battle. The key combo of this deck is Muster for Battle with Quartermaster. If you can get that off, and if you can be summoning Silverhand recruits during times where there's no sort of, it's not doing you any negative effect and it's not getting you behind your opponent or anything like that, it gives you basically, ideally you throw both of those down on the same turn. Your opponent, if they see you Muster for Battle, will in all likelihood, if they're a druid, they will swipe. They'll try and take out as many of those Silverhand recruits as possible. But if you get 3 Silverhand recruits, which are 3/3, plus your 1/4 weapon, plus anything else you've got on the table, that's setting you up for a good sort of big punch into your opponent's minions, as Thresh very ably says, or perhaps the hero as well. So it's kind of like your budget savage rule. However, of course, you can't use it all in one go. 2 Order Peacekeepers here for changing the enemy's minion attack to 1. I found that immeasurably invaluable. Normally in a Pally deck, or the mid-ranges we've seen pre-Goblins versus Gnomes, these have comboed up with the Stampeding Kodo that destroys a minion with 2 or less attack. So that gives you removal of those minions. Just dropping the enemy's attack to 1. An example of this, I dropped a horrible Warlock charging minion. The Chappoos, come on, let's remind myself. Let's remind me, I can't remember the Warlock minion's name. My goodness me, that's embarrassing. The Doomguard. We dropped the Doomguard to 1 attack, and then he slowly got buffed up and slowly started chipping away at me again. So it's not ideal if you can't remove the minion, but certainly that against things like Handlock, against big giants swinging at you, big legendaries, it really does help you out. So that is a nice way of sort of slowing your opponent's big pressure on you, and then you can take out those minions slightly at your leisure. But of course, remember, if they silence the minion, it gets its health back again. That is an effect that sits on the minion, so they can silence their own minion to get their attack back up. Little Exorcist. Now, normally the Trump version, well, the Trump version that I've seen, and I'm sure it's been changed, had 1. I've gone for a couple because I was seeing, at one point I was just getting besieged by Clockwork Gnomes and Death Rattling Undertakers and all kinds of stuff. You could drop this. I think the Trump version kind of had 2 shielded minibots and 1 Exorcist. So that's me pulling my minion options actually a bit later game. And Little Exorcist, I'm actually going to experiment again with going for 2 shielded minibots instead, which is pretty nice. Maybe an Ardent Protector actually instead of the shielded mini. Don't know. But the shielded mini-bots in there are to help you trade early game if you're being rushed, if there are death rattled decks coming out against you, mechs. It gives you just a minion that's going to go 2 for 1 in the early game and really helps Paladin deal with rush, but you've still got to deal with it physically with minions rather than sort of with spells as a druid, or insert any other spell throwing class here, pretty much any class. Warriors and similar would grab. So all of your early game, 2 chows, trade minions. Some people don't like chow, you could easily replace that with something else. But you want chows in the early game to trade away at enemy minions. Brilliant against death rattling minions and all that kind of jazz. However, if you don't get them down, then it's not going to help. True Silvers into the mid game. These, grab them, swing away at big minions, control your opponent's side of the board, get a heal because of it. If you're thinking, should I swing or should I save it for a bigger minion, it's never normally too bad to save this for a bigger minion rather than just hitting your opponent in the face, unless you're really pushing them down and pressuring in for the kill. You then get into 2 Shredders. Then these 2 Shredders, sorry for the typing. These 2 shredders allow you to summon a random 2 cost when they die. So for throwing them down at 4 mana, they may well perish with that 3 health, but in the trade you then get another 2 for 1 potentially. There's some brilliant 2 cost minions that come out. I've had all kinds of legendaries. I've had Nat Pagels before. I've had Thalnos, Blood Mage Thalnos, and loads of fun stuff. So those come in, and generally they're going to give you some kind of cool advantage. So with the 2 for 1ness, real nice. Spellbreaker jumps in. You can get through opponents' tanks, you can get through nasty opponent minion effects, and then it'll probably trade okay. Would you prefer a Blood Owl? Yeah, I'd probably say maybe a Blood Owl, an Iron Beak Owl. I'm thinking of a Blood Elf, as we can see there. You could switch for an Iron Beak if you fancied a cheaper mana variant, and indeed there have been situations where I've wanted to play Spellbreaker, and I thought, well, actually, I don't want to use the whole 4 mana. So maybe an Iron Beak Owl would be a good switch for that, because generally you use that for silence rather than the 4-3. Although the 4-3 attack and health trade can be good. Looking at heal bots, and again there's sort of a double redundancy here in that we've got to lay on hands later in the game, but this, I have found situations where I've had to throw down both a heal bot and a lay on hands to keep myself in the game. Does that mean I need more tanks? Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't take that damage to start with. But really, this doesn't trade for anything huge, but it will top you up on health at a key moment. Bolvar is an interesting one. I think people undercooked him a little bit. He is loads of fun if you can time when the minions you sacrifice, or the minions that get killed by your opponent to get him out. For example, dropping him against a priest with 4 attack. If you can sacrifice 3 minions when you have him in hand and drop him with 4 attack, he's awesome. Really, really awesome. Because he can help you at that 4 attack point start trading away nasty priest things. Or you can throw him down as just a huge big thing after you've sacrificed loads of little muster for battle Silverhand Knights, your little hero power. Silverhand Recruits, my pardon. Not Silverhand Knights, that would be Imber indeed. And then your opponent has to use some kind of control, some kind of silence. We've got the quartermasters, of course, comboing with our muster. Don't be afraid to muster in the early game if you need to, but you obviously want to muster and quartermaster within pretty quick succession, if not indeed the same turn. That can be your burst in the late game for victory. If you can get it down earlier in the game, it can get you grab control of the table. If you find yourself stacking musters and quartermasters in your hand, you should have probably played one or the other slightly earlier in the game. So don't hold out for that combo entirely. If you have a muster in hand and playing that muster is going to help you get control of the table in the early game, I might sacrifice 1, but you want to try and combo them at some point or another. Belcher really helps you just anchor the mid game. It means that you slow down your opponent, lets you get set up, lets you get some of these big legendaries onto the table. Cairn, 2 for 1 value, helps you trade away and get some good value. Sylvanas, possibly one that you can switch out. But Sylvanas, obviously, if you're trying to grab table control still at this stage of the game, you've probably struggled a bit in the early game, but Sylvanas hopefully forces your opponent to silence or to start being a bit more careful about how they pick off your minions. Lay on Hands is your late game Hail Mary for keeping you alive and getting that card draw, or accelerating your lead even more, getting you further ahead by getting those cards if you're already ahead in terms of table position. And then Tirion and Ysera. Now, Ysera in Trump's version is Sneed Shredder. The Shredder that is a legendary that you play, and when you play it, it allows you to summon a random legendary when it dies, so it forces a silence, which is a great another 2 for 1, like the piloted Sky Golem. Now, the piloted Sky Golem also used to be in Trump's version. In fact, I'm going to drop that back out, so I'm going to put the piloted Sky Golem back in to see if that gives me a bit more turn 6 punch. So there we go. And then for Ysera, it was Sneed Shredder. So throughout this deck, you had the Shredders, piloted Sky Golem, and then Sneed Shredder, which would then let you punch through. But I've thrown in Ysera there for some late game finish. Okay, that's our quick review of how the deck works. Now what we're going to do is throw it into the ladder and show you it in practice. So what we'll do is a couple of games with this to show you how it rolls. Let's see what we can do. We're only about rank 12 at the moment. Okay, so we have a Warlock. So this is going to be an interesting example. Is it a Rush or is it a Handlock? Do you know? I've got a Pyromancer. I'm going to keep that Pyromancer. Could have traded all 3. And okay, well, maybe I should have traded all three, but I've got two big cards. Now, obviously, there, what I was looking for. Muster is good, that will help me out. What I was ideally looking for there, of course, was one of my little shielded mini-bots. One of my little exorcist, indeed. So we've done a little bit of on-the-fly deck teching. Be interesting to see how this works. So if this is a zoo, then we've chosen well. If this is a handlock, well, we're still okay. We can muster into a quartermaster, but we should probably know in a couple of turns whether we're being rushed or whether we're going to be late gamed. Maybe we're going to be late gamed. Nothing on the table. I'm not going to throw down my pyromancer because of that. Because we've got a muster, I'm going to throw this down. Now, if this is a hand lock or some kind of demon lock, if we don't see, yeah, this is most probably a hand lock. 2 turns and our opponent has done nothing. Very clearly trying to stuff his hand. So, with that in mind, our play is actually fairly simple here. I'm going to muster, and if my opponent has a Hellfire, he'll probably want to try and play this. This does sort of suck out a Hellfire to a degree. Otherwise I can shred out into a quartermaster, and I've got huge table control. So does he have a Hellfire? No, he's life tapping again. So we're pretty obviously playing a handlock or a late game warlock. In comes a mortal coil, gives him an additional card draw, and he could well get a golem down, let's not forget. So this is by no means all well and good, but I'm going to go for the shredder for table control, and of course just get loads of pressure down. Now if he cannot wipe my table, oh, sacrificing a Shadow Flame. Now I would hope if he's played a Hellfire we'll certainly sit here, but that's where the 2-for-1 with the piloted shredder comes in. Even if he takes it out, down goes a Twilight Drake. Ooh, okay, so if he turns that into a tank we've got trouble. Of course, but remember we've got equalities, we've got consecrates, we've got a silence as well, so we can deal with that. So I think that in the spirit of our deck we should just push forward. And there is the perfect little combo where we drop that out, and we've already got this down to 6. Now our opponent is going to have to be playing some kind of tank next go. We've got Consecrate, we've got Wild Pyromancer. We could really do with an equality if he does start tanking up. Down goes a Molten Giant. I would expect to see a Sunfu Protector, maybe a Defender of Argus. He's going for some trading. Down goes a Sludge Belcher, okay. So we could use that silence. He's saying well played. Is that a well played? It's very possible. We could lose this game. So can I punch through that tank? I can, but what is the right order in which to do so? Yep, I've got enough to win this game. I punch through those two. We then let that come up. But we can then throw those down, and there's the win. So that was probably a very ideal matchup for our deck, to be quite honest. Why was that ideal? Well, we are in early to early mid game. We want to win in the mid game with our deck, quite obviously. If it gets to the late game, we have a few tools that we can use. We're playing a handlock, which is a very late game deck, and then on top of that, our handlock was having some tough draw. If he'd had just one Hellfire or just, you know, something of that nature, he could have even had a Pyromancer like we did and thrown down his mortal coil. That would have pretty much stopped us in our tracks, because as you saw, we played the muster for battle. We had to wait 2 turns until we could actually play the quartermaster after it. Okay, game 2, and let's see how this goes. We're going to be taking a look at a hunter. What do we want against hunters? Well, it might be a death rattling hunter. I don't want to consecrate or belcher. The pyro, not so bad. Could be mech huntering. I'm going to take a risk. I prefer some physical minions to trade with. Some tough old minions. Zombie Chow. Perfectly happy with Zombie Chow. A little exorcist or a shield bot would have been great. But you know what? I'm really happy with dropping a Zombie Chow turn 1 against a hunter. I'm pretty sure that if he's going to throw down some early game minions, he'll either be throwing mechs, web spinners, various beasts, you name it. So I'm pretty happy with Chow. Down goes a web spinner. I'm just going to trade that now. If I could silence it, even better. But yeah, I'm just quite happy to keep table control. Now if he gets a bad, and by bad beast I mean, you know, any kind of small 2 or 3 mana beast, I'd hope that he'll throw it down now pretty quick. In which case I can still use the Chow to deal with it. Out comes a coin. He's going to go up to 3 mana. And then something coming to the face. Out comes Animal Companion. Really nice. Is that going to be a... No, it's a Huffer. He'll just actually doing to the face. Interesting. So this is a really good example of where I can just quite happily trade that away. So my zombie chow has outlived its usefulness, and you can see that in hand I've got a quartermaster, so even though I haven't had a muster for battle, I could have, if I wanted to, 3 lilies by turn 3. So when I get to turn 5 I can muster. Now he may well, I think, try and start trading away these with a haunted creeper. I would probably be tempted to do that if I was this hunter. But I think, okay, down goes a leper gnome also. So he's now going for sort of the contra trades. Now here's my choice. Do I consecrate that off the table and then trade everything away? Or do I sort of try and get a table position ready for a muster? I'm going to see if I can get a muster away. Now I think that it's going to be the very fact that I don't make a trade with those is going to make him think, oh, is he trying to muster? So he may well just trade both of these now, or he might go for the shredder. If he goes for the shredder, I still get the benefit of a 2-cost minion, of course, out of that shredder. If he takes these away, okay, I'm not going to be able to muster. But down goes the eagle horn bow. In comes, I expect we'll see a trade for those. He'll take the shredder out with a hit to the face. What do I get as my 2-drop? I get a brewmaster, that's fine. Trades that away, and then maybe he makes one final trade. No, that's all done. So what do we have now? Okay, decisions. Now this is an interesting one. I don't have huge amounts of silver hands on the table. A belch would really solidify my position on the table, and just let me do some more chip. Throwing down a quartermaster, well, it's not going to give me huge benefit. So alternatively, I'm going to save a silence because I think there are probably some nasty things to come from this hunter. So the quartermaster would give me a nice big. That 2 attack 5 health is not bad at all for trading away stuff, particularly against a hunter deck like this, or if someone's trying to rush you. In comes straight up kill command. If he's using that on a minion and he's not using it on me, I'm quite happy with that. Up to 2. Down goes a mad scientist, so we're going to start seeing the secrets coming into play. And then finally a 3. He's actually using a lot of face damage. Maybe we'll see a trade against my silver hand. Thought so. Up it comes. A hunter trying to grab table position back. We've got to consecrate, so I can just swamp everything off the table and trigger a secret. The healbot can heal me up. I'm actually quite happy in this position to concentrate and drop a lily. Next turn I can use my little silver hand recruit and see what this secret is. If it's a freezing trap, then I'm quite happy to have that ping to my hand. If it's an explosive trap, well, at least we get it out of the way. Out comes a king of beasts. Maybe that's what he drew. Okay, nice drop, solid. Well, I can certainly see if this is a freezing trap or not. So we're on 7. I could just silence my way through that. I'm going to silence my way through that. There's no way I can direct control it off the table. I don't need a heal bot at this point in time. I don't need a lay on hands. I'm going to throw down Tirion next go anyway. So I'm going to see what this secret is. Now, of course, playing that before I play a minion, just in case it's an explosive. It's a freezing, no problem there. Quite happy with that. That comes back to hand. Yep, 3 mana is pretty expensive, but then we'll throw down another one of those. So I'm ready to Tirion next go. And unless our hunter has a silence, he's going to be having a few challenges getting through our Tirion. Welcome everyone joining me. We're just doing a little bit of a new play introduction to Trump's called Paladin with a few tweaks. Okay, so nasty down goes the Savannah Highmane. That's pretty rough riding, but we can just offer him a straight up trade with Tirion, see what he fancies. Or do we have an alternative play? Bolvar, well, we're quite happy for things to die when we have Bolvar in hand. I'm going to go for a Tirion straight up, and I'm just going to keep putting on pressure to the face. We have healing, the hunter does not have healing, so really the tempo is kind of with us. He could whip out a silence and that could spoil our day. Out comes an eagle horn bow, so means for a bit of trading. 5 mana left, going in for a cool pet. Is it going to be a beast? If it is a beast, we're going to be in some trouble. Very nice indeed. That's a great example of a cool pet coming in. And there's a straight up trade. Down that goes, but then it swings us into a 5 attack 3 health. Finally, the hunter going for a direct control, really slamming it on here, trying to put the pressure on, but equally we had some pressure on us back. So what do we have option wise? Well, I don't want to get rid of Ashbringer. I can take him in a couple of turns. He needs to make some taunts. He could well bring a Houndmaster up and that could spoil our day. Bolvar is only at 3 attack. We're not going to be able to remove the Savannah Highmane just yet. And I'll be losing some heal if I throw down a heal bot, but I'd quite like to remove some of these, and I don't have a consecrate either. So our options are plentiful, but we just need to make sure we make a good call here. I think that if we do a straight up trade for the high main and then heal up, that'll be a pretty solid play and accelerate us into the late game, and we still got to consecrate. So even though he's not entirely out at the moment, I'm going to go for this now. Now of course remember, we're going to take that 8 damage, and we've drawn 2 musters and a Ysera. Lovely. So with that, we're going to take that 8 damage again next turn. We've still got a heal bot, and I can muster into a quartermaster. But what I really was looking for was a consecrate. We've got a very dangerous field here. Out comes a houndmaster that's been tapped up to a 4/4 and taunt. Out comes a steady shot. Are we going to get rushed down here? Should we have just gone for face? Down goes a mad scientist as well. Ooh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are we going to... Not going to burn a card, but we've got an Order Peacekeeper. Okay, so we can, to a point, control this table. We are going to have to swing into that, take the damage. We're going to have to anti-Killbot ourselves up. I think we're then going to have to Order Peacekeeper down the remaining minion to keep the damage a little bit lower. And then that will set us up for another next turn. There could be a muster afterwards as well, but I think we just need to keep ourselves alive. Is there or anything? Remember, there's lethal on the table there, as we see right now. So out comes the hill, but I think we just have to make this play. Or do we reduce the attack on that so that we take less damage, and he has to swing him next turn? Okay, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15 next turn. A zombie chow would really help us in terms of trading, although it's going to heal him up for a bit of health. So here's the decision. With the zombie chow... Oh look, it's not... Let me click the button. How quaint. Okay, so here's where the sort of the flip side and the real close bit of this deck goes. Another cool pet, and if this deck is chock full of beasts, chances are that could be something really handy. If it's King Crush, then we can kiss our chances goodbye. Another Houndmaster is really slowing us down here, but basically he has to decide if he's going to trade some minions away. The reason for that being, of course, we have lethal if we can punch through that tank. Making some trades here. He's going for a longer game. Going to force me to make a trade there as well. In comes a steady shot. Very nicely played by our hunter. I don't really want that secret to activate. Okay, so we have a final swing. We could do the 5, or we could switch weapon and get a 2 heal off the back of that, which might be quite handy. We just don't know what the if I muster and he unleashes the hounds, for example, that could be a GG well played. And remember, I've got Bolvar as well as Ysera. So do we take the additional mana and sacrifice a bit of table utility to make ourselves safer? We'll put ourselves on 11. 11 is a little bit too low for my liking. This is a hyper conservative play for an additional 2 health. And it might be that it's the wrong one, but we'll have to see how we roll. Okay, so I can double muster, but then I lose the heal of that next go because I lose the weapon. Maybe I should have mustered first and then True Silver championed after. Out of such small things is the difference between victory and defeat. So do we go for a Bolvar? I think we go for a Bolvar. Okay. So remember, of course, that he has a 7-9, he's got 11 damage there. If he has another 2, then it's a victory, and I don't have a tank to put up. So he needs 2. And he's going for the trade, which means he doesn't have the lethal. Out comes the secret. Interesting. Going to the face, probably meaning that that's a freezing trap. Out comes a Haunted Creeper too. Right, so we've got an op. Kodo comes down, so he's just trying to rush us to the face. If only I could unveil that secret. Right, so I can reduce some table here a bit. Let's see what we can grab. I'm wondering if that's a freezing. I could quite do with the 3 heal. So I'm going to reduce the health of this. Let's see if it's an explosive. Oh, error. Okay, because the minion died. Let's do a little bit of a hunter secreting. I'm just reminding myself of my hunter secrets, right? when an enemy minion attacks, return it to its owner's hand and it costs 2 more. We've not attacked the hero, so we don't know if it's an explosive. This will cost more if we return it to hand. So we need to know if that's an explosive or if it's a freezing. Now, is there anything here that can help us bar a muster? I think, remember of course he has lethal. We can't assist that. Maybe I've just gone into it. Let's take the risk and see if it's a freezing. It is a freezing. And for that reason I think he has a game, because we can't remove everything from the table. So I think there was a misplay or two in there that might have made us suffer a tad. So we could have done a lot better there. That's a shame. But that's a good example of where the subtleties in this deck come, because now he's got the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the victory. So there is a little deck preview of this deck. And I think there are a few failed plays in that when I watch it back, but effectively there were probably a couple of situations there where it sort of was on a knife edge, but really I think it was the fact that I probably made a few bad trades, maybe brought out the silence a little bit too early in the game. But there you go, that's an example of this deck winning, an example of this deck losing a little bit and going down with a bit of pain. So thanks very much for tuning in. If you're live on stream, don't go away. We're going to be continuing and doing some more stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, please come check us out in future. Live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Failcraftcast. Live Monday through Friday at the schedule in the bottom left there. We'll always tweet on @Failcraftclass on Twitter before we're going live. If you're live, youtube.com/Failcraftcast. It's got a bunch of vids there, and deck intros and things too. So if you're live, don't go away. If you're on YouTube, hopefully see you soon. Take it easy. Okay folks, what do you fancy? We can arena. We can be arenaing. We can do some more decks. Do you want to look at some new decks? We can look at some new decks. We can do some ladder. We can play some different games entirely. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you folks fancy, we shall do. I've been looking at Control Warrior as well. That's also something we could go and have a look at. An extremis style Control Warrior. Oh look, getting so close. So close. What do you guys fancy? Would you like some more Hearthstone decks? Do you want to just do some ladder? We can crack out some ladder, have some fun. Hearthstone still baffles me. It baffles me too. Maybe when I eventually get a legend rank I can profess to have some vague other things. What do you all fancy? I'm gonna crack open one more ladder game with this deck. I feel as though we need to right the wrongs of that last game and then we can decide what we're doing after. Am I enjoying no work? Good so far. Getting lots of bits done, all of those things that you need to do, playing a few games, spending good time with the wiser half, chilling out, walking the dog. It's all good. Shall we smash some ladder out? Okay, let's ladder. Okay. Ladder climb. Okay. Paladin warrior. Okay, cool. Let's get the songbot going. So I'm just going to quickly reboot the stream. We're playing a mage. Do I want to muster? Yes, I certainly do. I'm going to keep an equality as well. Be right back in just one sec, guys. I'm going to rebroadcast.